Hey everybody, this is Don't Buy Dodge Ram Junk number 3. The saga continues. Whoops. There we go. In the summer of 2016, this is in my Dodge Ram 2500 4x4 diesel. And I got to say that I really like that Cummins turbo diesel, but the rest of it's a piece of crap. Anyways, in the summer of 2016, the rear pinion nut came loose, and then I had to short shaft U-joints went, and the transmission cracked, and the transmission was repaired in the spring of 2017, and then in June of 2017, the transfer case went, and this is the next part of this whole thing, okay? And I think you'll like it. This is going to be a short one. Anyways, so the pinion nut is basically the rear differential, and the pinion is the circular gear that goes into the differential. And so you got the pinion is the bottom arrow, the nut is on the top, and it's a real simple fix for that if Dodge was interested in fixing anything, or I should say building it properly, because you know the real simple is to have a tab washer on the nut. I mean, that's just as simple as they get. But you know, it's a piece of junk, and so that's what you get a plan on when you buy Dodge Ram junk. So there was a whining sound. After a period of time, the whining got worse. After investigating, the rear pinion nut was loose. I talked to a Dodge service advisor in Huntsville, Texas, and I told him that I was out of work for 5 years and I didn't have much money and I couldn't afford much, and I just wanted to fix the exact problem. And so they took it in, no problem, and the mechanic, they just flat refused to even take the cover off the differential, and they insisted on a complete ring and pinion overhaul. And so, you know, this is what these thieves like to do. Okay, they stick it to you. They don't even, it's either pay it or go somewhere else. Okay, so actually I went somewhere else. Dodge has had recalls on these rear pinion nuts. They want to prevent all this. All they have to do is install a tab washer that's like 10 cents. Okay, so it's planned, it's orchestrated. They know exactly. They want to make sure and stick it to you. Okay, Dodge intends that their junk fails so they can sell you a $3,000 differential overhaul. I found a used differential for $1,000 and paid $500 for the installation. Anyways, and this is the short shaft, and you notice the two universal joints that are about 4 or 5 inches apart, and that is like a disaster, or a recipe for a disaster in my opinion. And then where that arrow is pointing, there's basically you got 4, 6, 8 U joints, or 2 U joints, 8 of these needle bearings. And then there's a needle bearing in there where that arrow is. So there's one more in there. And if it's not put together right, I had mine done by a machine shop, but because Dodge wanted $500 for another short shaft, and when I told them that I hadn't been working for 5 years, thanks to all the change that Obama brought us, then they told me to go to this machine shop. And the machine shop did it. But I had previously had this thing replaced, and they hadn't done it right because there's a seal that goes on that inner roller bearing, and if that seal's not installed properly, then it's only a matter of time till the thing fails. These U joints cannot be greased. Okay, when you buy it new, they cannot be greased. You can when I went and installed them, or had them replaced, I told them I wanted grease fittings on them, and so they did that. So now I can, but they want them to fail. Okay, that's all part of the plan. Okay, so they can stick it to you some more. These U joints are overly complicated and unnecessary. They wanted over $500 to replace the short shaft, and after telling them I'd been out of work for 4 years, they referred me to a machine shop. I noticed then there was the transmission leak. Okay, I noticed a transmission leak. One time it would not come out of 4th gear. I reset the codes and then it would shift, and the codes were related to low oil pressure. I cleaned it off with electric contact cleaner, drove it for a short distance and noticed that it was cracked, just about broken in half actually. And So, I mean, the dealer, I didn't even go to the dealer because I knew what they'd be wanting. If you go on eBay, they want like $9,000 for a replacement transmission. And I went and I did a lot of shopping around trying to find a place that would do it, and a place in a price that I could afford. And quite frankly, with the place that I found, I just flat out told them, take as long as you want because I don't have the money. And I'll hopefully by the time you get done, I'll have the money. And so I said, if it take however long you need to take. And so they wound up, it took like 2 months for them to do it. But by the time that 2 months was up, I had the money. I actually had to sell some of my silver too. And anyway, yeah. So this is where the crack is. This is one that's welded. This is a picture I got off of eBay. Then and the welded areas where the crack develops. And this is another picture of the same crack, and like mine was just about broken half. And this is before the crack develops. This is another one I got off of eBay that shows the area before crack develops. And so I got it fixed. Okay, it cost me $3,500, and they went and overhauled the transmission and put a new case. So they took my internals out, overhauled it, and put it inside another case. And the thing is that all structures, I happen to do aerospace engineering consulting, and I know that they do a stress analysis, and the stress analysis determines the type of material the structure will be made of, and the material thickness and the shape of the material, and they always have to add in a 10% safety margin. They know exactly what they're doing. This is a hook, for example. The red area is the high stress area, and so you notice that there's more material there because that's where the stress is. And then this is a piston, okay, and the high stress area is on the top of the piston, which there's lots of material there. So that's not as big of a deal. If the red area was on the bottom of the piston, they'd have to add more material there to strengthen it. And this is a propeller, and the material is the stress is around the base of the blades, and so they go and add in more material there. The idea being is they want it lightweight but strong. This is basically a ring and pinion gear, and this shows where the stress is on a ring and pinion gear. And so an automatic transmission is a self-contained hydraulic system. In an airplane, the hydraulic system is the single most reliable system. If there's a failure in an airplane hydraulic system, it's probably an electrical component because of the testing that's required by the FAA regulatory authorities. Anyways, now if you look at this case, they put these stiffeners, these lateral lengthwise stiffeners in there because they know that they got to strengthen up this case. So they added in these stiffeners, and that's where that middle hole, there's a bolt hole there, and that isn't even used normally in a transmission. That middle bolt hole is where that crack develops. And so if I replace the transmission, how do I know the new one won't crack? And that's exactly what happened. The damn thing cracked again. They've done nothing to relieve stresses on these castings, breaking sharp corners or shot peening. They give you a 1-year warranty, which sometimes up to 3 years warranty on a rebuilt transmission, and it's a lot of money, let me tell you. And it's a black hole for money and a windfall for these thieves. Anyone who buys Dodge Ram junk is asking for major repair expenses again and again and again, and they're going to stick it to you. And again, this is a picture of one that with the stiffeners and where the weld was repaired less than 2 months after getting the transmission overhauled. I get another vibration, and I removed the short shaft and checked the output flange of the transfer case, and when it turns, it makes all sorts of rattling noises coming from inside. So the transfer case was coming apart. So then I decided, well, maybe I'll pull a plug off of this transfer case, and I pull the drain plug out, and nothing comes out, right? And so I suspect that it came out of, it was like it was like about a month after this transmission was overhauled, and I suspect that they let that transfer case lay on the floor. I'd never had any trouble with that transfer case, and I know for a fact that it was full because I had drained the fluid probably 2 months before this all happened. And so they probably left the thing laying on the floor in the shop, and the fluid leaked out, and then nobody bothered to check it when they put it back in. But how are you going to prove that? Anyways, so this Dodge Ram junk issue just doesn't end. Next time I'm going to test drive a Ford or a Chevy. Although I really love that diesel, that Cummins diesel. You know, I heard that Toyota's coming out with a Cummins diesel too, so maybe I'll look at that. Anyways, this is the transfer case. The arrow is pointing at the output shaft that I wiggled, and I hear all these noises coming on the inside of that transfer case. And that's the transfer case bolted up to the transmission. Anyways, so less than 6 months, get a load of this, after I replaced the Dodge Ram junk transmission, it starts leaking again. I took the junk back to the place of the overhaul, that overhauled the transmission, and the piece of junk is cracked again. And somebody needs to sue these jerks. Don't get me going. Don't buy Dodge Ram junk. Certainly don't buy an automatic transmission. It is an abortion. And what they did, they've actually got it overhauled. They put it back in my truck, and this is a picture I took that shows that they actually bought an additional brace for this transmission. And notice that small bolt hole right here, that one is where the crack develops. And so this thing's made of steel, and so they have to reinforce this piece of shit so it doesn't come apart. And the thing is, this is what really gets me, is it's designed for that bracket in the first place. And so they know this kind of stuff is going to happen. It's designed to do it. They've got the bolt holes in place for the bracket to install it, if you want, or whatever. And it's all built into the case. It is such an abortion. I would never, ever, I certainly won't buy an automatic transmission from Dodge again, that's for sure. That is an absolute abortion. And so that's the bracket. That's a steel bracket they put in there to reinforce that piece of shit. And this is showing the transmission installed, and then this right here is the transfer case that's bolted up to the transmission. And there's that bracket that goes in there, and it bolts right onto the transmission. And it is an absolute abortion. I would never buy Dodge Ram junk again. Certainly not an automatic. I might consider a standard, but I will never buy an automatic again. That is an absolute abortion. And I'm going to look at Toyota, quite frankly. Anyways, I don't have any advertisements on this. That's the end of the video. I appreciate you watching. Don't buy Dodge Ram junk. It's a black hole. And that's the last thing I need. I've been out of work for 5 years. And that's all I need is these Dodge Ram junk to come and you know what, I can't even drive the thing. It's taken them 2 months to fix the thing again, which, you know, I originally told them to take their time, and so they have people they're dealing with, and it takes them time, and they're doing it for nothing. And so I guess I can't complain too much, but yeah, it's down for another 2 months now, and it's just an absolute abortion. Don't buy Dodge Ram junk.